What's up, YouTube? Kedris here. It's going to be a nice little fun video I decided to do where we look at the top 10 clubs in the league. We've kind of been in the bottom half of the table for most of the season, and we obviously know a lot about the clubs and teams around us and how they're playing because we got to watch them closely. But I thought this would be a nice, cool thing to kind of just look at the top 10 of the table, give my perspective on how they're doing, where they're going, and kind of the overall take on their season in general. Starting with Arsenal, we're going to start at the top of the league and work our way down. Looking at the team lineup that this put out on FOTMob, this is a predicted lineup for their next match. There's a couple things I disagree with. I don't think Eze is going to start. I think it's going to be Odegaard, and I do not think they play a 4-2-3-1. They play a 4-3-3. And that's where I want to start. I want to start with why Arsenal seem to always be struggling with attacking, why they have to rely on set pieces a lot, and long shots in order to make up the difference. Looking at their lineup, we have Madueke. Saka got injured once again. I believe he was on the bench for the match of the weekend. But you can tell from the way that they play that the goal for their wingers and their attackers is not always to put the ball in the back of the net, but to get a corner kick. And that kind of makes it to where there's not a foot on the pedal. There's not an urgency to score and creates that kind of ineffective attacking mentality that seems to be the bane of Arsenal's existence. I think the other reason that they struggle is they shifted from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3, which took the 10 position, which was Odegaard, further away from goal and asked him to do more of something that wasn't really his skill set that made him such a productive 10 in the first place. He was productive because of his ability to create chances and opportunities in a small, tight window inside the box and to be able to score from nice kicks in kind of difficult situations. You take him further from the box, what you're asking him to do is a little different, and he's asking him to pass for longer, make and create opportunities through vision instead of instinct and kind of relying on awareness in the box. What that also did was take Rice and ask him to kind of equal or be similar to in that creative output. And I don't think that's Rice's strong suit. I really do believe that he is a six and that asking him and creating a system that accommodates him going forward was a big L for Arsenal and kind of took away from their prowess when it comes to attacking in general. Now, a lot of people will be like, hey, no, Declan Rice is the best midfielder in the Premier League. I disagree. I think he's one of the best Premier League, best midfielders in the world. But for what he's being asked to do and how he's being asked to play out of position, I do believe that he is not the best eight that there is. I think there are other candidates for that. And just looking at the overall production, yeah, he's great at free kicks, but does he create a lot of scoring opportunities? I don't think so. And I think that changing everything to accommodate him getting forward has kind of put and set Arsenal back. Moving on to Manchester City, we look at the starting lineup generated by FOTMob. Haaland up top, Semenyo, Foden, O'Reilly, Rodri, Silva in the midfield, Aït-Nouri, Guehi, Diaz, Nunes. Now, looking at this team, there's obviously a lot of talent, and there's also a lot of inconsistencies. O'Reilly is a young player, asked being played midfield, did great when he was at left back, and his really only job was to defend and then move forward. Being in the midfield, he's being asked to do more, and that's created a kind of inconsistency in how Manchester City play. Also, Foden was on fire at the start of the season and has kind of tapered off since then. I think really the big problem with Man City in general is actually the defense for the first part of the season because they just had so many center backs injured and they had a lot of players that were out and they kind of had to make a makeshift back four. And then the second problem is Pep Guardiola. He seems to be chopping and changing a lot, and he's not really setting a definitive lineup and a definitive baseline for his team to set a standard. And because of that, what's happening is you're seeing this up and down type of playing style where you got, Foden who starts, he's inconsistent, and then you put Cherky on, but he wants to be the starter, but he's not getting the starting minutes. He plays differently to Foden, and it's just creating a kind of dichotomy that is really affecting their season and affecting the results. I mean, obviously they're second in the league, doing well, but that consistency is lacking, and it's due to these type of things. And I think that's the major reason why they are a step behind Arsenal in the title race. Moving to third place, we look at Aston Villa. Honestly, an interesting team because they started off the season terribly. Like, I don't think they won a game in like their first eight, or was it 10, something like that. And now they kind of picked up the pace, picked up points. They're sitting third in the league. And I look at their situation. Obviously, they got Douglas Luiz in the January window. Man, that hurts. But he was a good addition. He's already made an impact coming to play for them. The way they play, obviously, they just got bombed out of the FA Cup by Newcastle. A dumb decision by the backup goalkeeper who played, and it cost them. And well, I actually think it's a good thing for them because now they can not spread their squad thin, which is it is a small squad, and they can condense down and really fight for this Premier League title and fight for the Champions League.
Huh?
They have it, or not Champions League, the Europa League. They have a shot, definitely with not my team, Nottingham Forest, struggling, and I think they could win it with ease. Looking at their problems, I would say probably the inconsistency of Watkins. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. They brought in Tammy Abraham, kind of an old face, to bring in a new type of striking tempo. He's kind of got off the ground running and done well, especially in the FA Cup match. There's a lot of chop and change in the midfield with Tielemans being injured most of the season. But overall, I think they're a good team. They're a good squad. They have a good structure. I like their manager. And do I think they're going to win the Premier League? No. I just think there's inconsistency, especially with the positions like Rodgers, who will be world class for a game, and then for the next game will just disappear. Sancho shows up whenever he feels like it, and I think they will have a great base to work from with their defense. But overall, I don't think their attack will be enough to get them over the line. Moving on to fourth in the Premier League, we look at Manchester United, who had sacked Amrin and now had bounced back and entered the top four under Michael Carrick. His type of play and system is something that we see at Middlesbrough even right now in the championship, where there's not really a set formation kind of positionally. It's more of a zone based kind of attack where you can see the entire team shift to one side of the pitch or the other, depending on where the ball is at. Looking at it, they seem to be a revitalization of the midfield, especially with the addition of Kobe Mainu into it, and a kind of different take on Casemiro's um, output, where he's not asked to sit there and specifically just defend. He was the most dribbled past player, one of the most dribbled past players in the Premier League at the beginning of the season, and he's been asked in certain situations to be able to get forward and to contribute in the attack and to score goals, which I think is one of the things he's best at. Bruno Fernandes has been freed from his role as being an eight and has been able to give the freedom of kind of like that 10 left wing position up front. I think has done him a lot of good. He was never an eight for me. He's always been that classic 10 player who I don't think does that well in the eight position, especially with the lack of concentration. It seems to be a common theme with creative players. And Bueno, this is kind of a false lineup because Bueno actually kind of works up top as the striker, and you see Amad Diallo on the right. Cunha will play off the left wing and then come inside and play as at a striker position. This new system is something that I think is going to be the new type of football moving forward for the next couple of years. I also advocated for the Middlesbrough manager. I can't remember his name, but I also advocated for him to be the next Forest manager. Obviously, we went with Vitor Pereira. And I think Middlesbrough are going to get promoted. They're first in the championship right now and are looking really, really good. Looking at the back line, a lot of Maguire has been getting stick for a long time from a lot of Manchester United fans. He's kind of shown up and shown out whenever he needed to. I honestly don't have a really big problem with Maguire. I thought he was good even from his days at Leicester. And to me, obviously, the weakness of this back line is Diallo and, of course, Martinez's height. He does well. He locked up Holland one game, so he can battle in that type of area. But if he kind of slacks just a little bit, that kind of advantage becomes very prominent. So that's something to watch out for. But overall, I think the team's going to do great. I don't think they're going to win the Premier League. I don't think they're going to be in a Premier League title race. The does help a lot that they only have to play one game a week, having already been bombed out of the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and not having European football. So I think this could be a good thing for them. I think they're going to build and line up. I think they're also going to make some more signings in the summer with the likes of Elliot Anderson to help bolster that midfield. Where Casemiro, you can kind of see his legs are kind of going. But I think it's a good system, a good lineup. And looking at fifth in the Premier League, we see Chelsea. This seems to be their spot of like their origin. The fourth, fifth place is the where they're going to be, especially with the type of model they have, where they bring in young players, not established players, and they ask them to develop and to contribute. Looking at the new manager being how do you say his name? Rosnoir. Anyways, the Strasbourg guy. They seem to be very more attacking and fluid in the possession. My only issue is, and I've noticed this, is that they seem to be leaking a lot of goals, and I don't understand. Looking at it, it seems to me to be a system problem and not a center back problem, which I do understand, and I know Chelsea fans will scream at me. Our center backs are crap. I get it, I do, but to me, watching the match and the way that they're conceding goals, some of them are bozo errors by the center backs, but also a lot of these goals are from the system play being exposed along the wing specifically, and the lack of concentration that you get with younger players, which is why I think it is important that you should have experience in a squad. I would like to see at least one starting player who's, like 29 plus in the lineup. This is kind of false because Reece James does play in here whenever he's not injured. Esteval has been a sensation for the Premier League. Palmer, I think, is overrated but underrated at the same time, if that makes sense. As in, he's overrated in his consistent output, but underrated in when he does decide to be world class, the output he shows. João Pedro, inconsistent. Enzo Fernandez, he's a box crasher. He's not a defensive midfielder. I think the problem with Chelsea when it comes to attitude has been kind of fixed by the new manager, but there still seems to be issues flaring up sometimes. Luckily, it hasn't resulted in a red card yet, but the squad being so young lends itself to that type of being unable to control your emotions. Moving on to sixth place, we see Liverpool. Wow, so much hype in the summer, so much hope, and it all came crashing down. They have been kind of going on a run recently, but a lot of the Liverpool fans still want Arne Slot to leave the club in the summer and bring in Xavi Alonso. I don't know. I can't tell. Honestly, I watched the team and I can't really pinpoint what is wrong structurally with the defense, the way that they seem to be leaking goals. I want to say it's because Gravenberch has been given the license to move forward, but even in the games where he's been told to stay back, they still concede goals regularly. So I think just looking at it, maybe the fullbacks, like if one goes high, the other needs to stay low. Maybe you need to take a more conservative approach to that type of switching when it comes to playing with the ball. Play with a three back system instead of a two back. Van Dyke is not the defender that he once was. He does a lot of aura defending now. So maybe we need to, or Arne Slot needs to address the situation and be like, hey, okay, whenever Kirkez bombs forward, whoever's playing right back needs to stay back. Whenever his right back stays forward, Kirkez or whoever's playing left back needs to come back to the defensive line for security reasons. Gravenberch, I think, he's not an eight. He failed as an eight. He's not a really good consistent goal scorer. Yeah, he can pop one in every once in a while. But the reason that he was very effective last season was because he was asked to sit. He was asked to defend and keep the play in front of him. And his best attribute is getting the ball on the half turn or making a half turn with the ball. So, to me at least, he needs to stop going forward. He needs to stay back. And then we need to establish that kind of switching system. I think you have the creativity up front to score goals. The double bombing of the wingbacks up the pitch is just unsustainable for me. And I think you're going to continue to struggle and be inconsistent if you allow that to keep happening. Brentford, this is surprise of the season. Everyone and their mother thought that when their manager Thomas Frank went to Tottenham, they would go down. They have proven everybody wrong, including myself, and are now sitting currently 7th in the Premier League, fighting for European slots. And I think it's a large part due to the fact that they've attacked the season with the "we have nothing to lose and we're going to play for ourselves" type of mentality. And has resulted in a lot of good play and a lot of good moments. Overall, I think the structure is there, the players have bought in, and when you see the return of Henry with Coyote on the right, their defense is very solid. My only questions for them would probably be at goalkeeper. Kelleher seems to be really shaky, and these 6 and 8 position in the middle, that double pivot, is really unstable. I don't think you get consistent play from them, and it's resulting in a lot of these games where you'll lose one, win one, draw one, and I think you get production from the likes of Lewis Pod, the likes of Ortaro, and especially with one of the top Premier League strikers right now in Thiago. It looks really good. I think the return of Damsgaard, he kind of made a sub appearance in this last match, was going to be vital to them. He is a crucial piece in that 10 position to affect teams, especially in the attack and the way he gets into the half space and creates opportunities for those around him. So I think the future is looking bright. Do I think they get a European spot? I actually do. I do think they get the Conference League spot. I think they hold on to it. And looking at the other teams kind of around them, Liverpool being inconsistent, Chelsea being inconsistent, looking at the ones below them, Everton, Bournemouth, Newcastle, they're just not up to par, and I think they can, with they stay healthy, stay with this type of attacking mentality and cohesion as a unit, they could get European football. Going from one of the surprises of the season, we now look at one of the disappointments of the season. Everton sitting 8th in the Premier League. A lot of their problems have come from a combination of AFCON and injuries. They finally got most of their players back. The return of Dewsbury Hall is a insanely important piece in their success. I think a lot of people overrated the importance of Jack Grealish. He, to me at least, doesn't he generates fouls and that creates opportunities, but he doesn't actually create that many opportunities himself. So I think his injury is actually not that important. The Dewsbury Hall injury was. He is a 10, comes from Chelsea. And the midfield of Dewsbury Hall, Gay, and Garner is very solid, defensively robust, and creative, and can score long shot goals. I think the reason that Everton have been struggling this season is because of the striker position. The youth of Barry, the inconsistency of it's the guy that um does the LeBron James celebration, the backup guy. Anyways, Beto. They don't score consistent goals. They miss open opportunities. And Jai put on the right, kind of not an attacking area. I think, to me at least, is a mistake. I would have liked to have seen him and Dewsbury Hall kind of play like a double pivot 10 position, maybe like a 4-3-2-1. But I think the addition of George could provide that spark they need. I think he's a decent player, can do a lot of things. He can defend well, create well, and score well. So we could see a rise in Everton pushing Brentford for that European spot. And maybe if Liverpool slip up, could get Europa. Moving on to another disappointment, we have Bournemouth sitting ninth in the Premier League right now. They started off real hot, got up really high in the table. I think they were second at one point, but how the mighty have fallen, the injuries again piling up. And I think at this point, a lot of Bournemouth fans need to look at the style of play that Areola requires from his players. That high intensity pressing, that gung ho play is generating a lot of injuries in this day and age. And you saw that a lot with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham last season. I think in this modern day and age, we need to understand that injuries, while we do have 5 subs now, are important things. And this specifically has been the cause of the downfall of Bournemouth this season. Clivert injured. Evan Nielsen kind of being less productive than he was last season. Creativity really lacking in this lineup. Scott and Toth are not they're not defensive players. They're not like they don't defend very well, and I just think this team is a lot it has a lot of attacking nous, but lacks defensive stability, and that's why you see a lot of matches where they score a lot and they give up a lot of goals. And I just don't think that's sustainable. There's been rumors that Thomas Frank has been linked with a move to Bournemouth, to Fulham, and one of these reasons is this inconsistency. And I think Ariola may be looking for a job opportunity in the summer. Moving on to 10th place and the last club that we're going to look at in this long ass video. Thank you all to everyone who stuck with me. Is Newcastle. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The departure of Alexander Isak was a massive blow to Newcastle. And then with the accompanying injuries of Guimaraes, Tonali, and Joe Ellington throughout the season has resulted in a midfield that's not been dominant enough. Also, the chopping and changing by Eddie Howe of putting Dan Burn at left back, I think is stupid. Lewis Hall should be your out and out starter. Is he afraid of injury? Yes. Why didn't you address that in the January window as a club? That's something that should be asked. Trippier is a creative specialist, but to me at least, is past his prime when it comes to being able to track back and defend consistently for 90 minutes. The injury of Livramento is huge for Newcastle, and I think seeing this now, teams are going to come for Livramento in the summer. You know that you're going to be paying at least 70 million for the guy, and not Tottenham. Newcastle really, really, really need to address these two positions in the summer. Looking at the midfield, you got Ramsey and Willock, two very inconsistent players, two injury-prone players. I don't understand why these are the guys moving forward. Probably because of injury, but Guimaraes being back in the side does change them fundamentally in the midfield to be more controlling and less inconsistent. But honestly, the problem with me with Newcastle is the front line. Nick Waltemata, although praised at the beginning of the season as being as good, if not better, than Alexander Isak, has proven himself not to be. And the chopping and changing of the front line seems to not being consistent with an attacking threat. Anthony Gordon is the most overrated winger in the Premier League I have ever seen. He has scored, I think, one goal since last season, like really deep last season, like January of last season. Like it's ridiculous if you actually look at his stats, how bad he is. Elanga has not hit the ground running. I don't know what they expected from him, but he was never a guy who took on a man, never somebody who dribbled past somebody. And the way the system's set up doesn't really lend itself to what Elanga is good at. And especially if you remove the target man in the box, Elanga struggles. And you seeing that with that this season, bargain for us. Looking at Harvey Barnes, I've never thought of him as a starter. He's never had that consistent output for 90 minutes. He like me, like Harry Wilson from Fulham, to me is a power sub, a sub that can change the game and score you wonder goals, but for 90 minutes just doesn't generate the type of pressure that you would expect from when he comes on. And I think that's largely the reason why Newcastle struggled this season. I think you could see them drop even lower and could see Eddie Howe move on. So that's the top 10 clubs in the Premier League right now as of this moment and my thoughts on them. I thought this would be a nice little fun video to do just because I don't really have any content right now. I've already put out everything I want to say on Vitor Pereira, and I will be doing a match preview for Fenerbahce on Wednesday. But what lineup will Pereira go with? I can only guess. And that's all we all can really do is only guess at this Premier League. Overall, if I did do a summation of everything, I think Arsenal do win the Premier League. The only problem is that it's going to be a stain because everyone, I believe, kind of like the Liverpool winning the league last season, everyone was like, well, just the rest of the league is shit. And I think that's going to be the same narrative with Arsenal this season. The rest of the league is just bad. And honestly, to be frank, Arsenal should be pulled further away than they are right now. And the reason that it's still so close is their own fault, their own doing. Um, Things like a draw at Nottingham Forest, like, are just where you need to go in and you need to win the match. So they have no one to blame themselves. I think they do take it, and the narrative surrounding this league is pretty much going to be set. And hey, if you guys like the video, make sure to leave a subscribe, a like, drop a comment down below. I love answering them. And tell me what you think about the Premier League. Was I off base on any of my takes? I don't know. This is just my perspective. Anyways, at the end of the day, the important thing for everybody to know is this: come on, you Reds.